This is the GerleMen podcast. My name is Mike Gurley, and I'm the host and founder of GerleMen.com, a community for gay men and anyone self-identified as the other, designed to help you own your personal dignity, strengthen your connection to your chosen family, and thrive in general society. Today's guest is Chris Kuwahara-Smith. I wanted to interview Chris because he creates heart-centered community through his organization, California Gay Adventures. And after joining Chris and the members of CGA on a camping trip in Zion National Park, it became clear to me that Chris is doing something important, something that is both classic and radically different. California Gay Adventures delivers iconic American outdoorsman culture. That's the classic part. And he does it for specifically gay men and LGBT people. You know, this former Boy Scout from Idaho finds that idea to be pretty radical. Gay people just weren't allowed on the campsites where I grew up. So it's great to see that Chris has leveraged his love for outdoor activities to create space where all kinds of gay men find a sense of belonging. His own hero's journey through college sports and the Mormon faith, especially his mission while he was a Mormon, has left him with important life lessons that enable him to be the man he is today. And I would say that the man he is today is a true leader. He's creating community by being authentic and holding fast to his own values. So now let's get straight to it and on to the interview. The moment you realized you were a gay man, you were forced onto the path of the other. So you know oppression, inside and out. The calling of otherness has led you on your own hero's journey, and that journey has prepared you for greatness. You are a man answering the call to brotherhood, to conscious sex, and to heart-centered connection. Welcome home, brother. Today on the show, we have Chris Kuwahara-Smith, and I've known you long enough I think I got close to being able to pronounce your name right.
Yeah, perfect. Kuwahara.
Kuwahara, yeah. Smith, you don't want to forget that. Thank you for being here. But I just want to start just first by talking about CGA, California Gay Adventures. Just first of all, what is that? You know, how are you connected to that? And let's just start there so people can get oriented.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Mike. I'm excited to be on the show. California Gay Adventures was a little bit of we kind of stumbled into it. And that was from a lot of what we're going to talk about today, my life background, things growing up. My husband and I, we're both Chris. So it's Chris Kuwahara-Smith and Christopher Kuwahara-Smith. So there's two of us. We came over from Arizona about 6 years ago. And I was had an off-road group in Arizona and with some friends. It was called Cactus Four-Wheelers, and came out here and just kind of experienced regular life, getting into West Hollywood. We lived downtown, trying to figure out where we fit in. And I realized I really needed my outdoors again. And so what we did is I started doing a lot of off-roading. I started a group called Pacific Four-Wheelers on Facebook. And then I realized that a lot of people don't have the extra money here to have kind of like their own play vehicles and extra things. And so we realized that a lot of people like hiking and camping. And we went out on a trip with some friends, and we kind of came up with an idea that, hey, let's create a group and start doing this more and more. And it just evolved from there.
Okay. So it was basically just about, guys getting together and off-roading and outdoor stuff.
Yeah, off-roading, going camping, and then it's evolved into where we could do some daytime adventures, skydiving, things like that.
I'm older than you, enough older than you that makes me think a lot of gays would be like, what? You want to do what? Was it called Gay California Adventures at the beginning, or was it like pseudo-closeted? I mean, what was the deal? I mean, and what made you think that a bunch of gays would be into that?
I think that's interesting because it comes from that evolution as well from Arizona. When we did Cactus Four-Wheelers didn't have gay in it at all. We didn't even say anything about gay in any of it, just in case we're going to get some homophobic people coming after us or trying to find where we're going. And that was back, this had to have been like 2007 when I got involved. It's been around for over 25 years. And we did have issues with some people afraid to show that they're gay on the internet, had some fear. Because with Pacific four-wheelers, as we went forward, being in California, I felt a little more comfortable. At the end of years in Arizona, I felt more comfortable as well. And we called it Pacific four-wheelers, kind of for the same reason. It didn't have anything gay. But then I just added on an LGBT off-road group, just to see what would happen. And actually more people joined. And we didn't have anybody that had an issue. It's been amazing over the last several years, I'd say, in just the way people, because I've dealt with the homophobic off-road guys, because that's a lot of what this is, the way people treat me and treat us as a community of being involved in things that maybe aren't stereotypically gay. So the reason why we call it California Gay Adventures is because, you know what, screw them. If they're not going to like us, you know what, we need to come out of fear. And I've really done that. And I'm proud that we've come this far.
Well, that's really interesting. It's like a coming out process for your organization.
Exactly.
How does that mirror your own coming out process?
I was raised with 7 brothers and sisters in the Mormon family. Now, today at this date, I have a gay brother and a bisexual sister. So, but at that time when I was growing up, I only knew about me. There was nobody like me in this world. So, of course, I had a typical, we all come out at a certain time. I did not want to come out. I went on my Mormon mission. I was 21. I went to college after I got home from my Mormon mission. I went up to a school in northern Arizona. While I was at school in northern Arizona, I was actually outed by my college basketball coach in front of my entire college basketball team. Today, that'd probably be on the news. But then I just put my tail between my legs and I left college. So after that point, I was excommunicated from my church, from my dad, as he was in the bishopric of the church. Wow. So it was a little rough for me. I've had a rough patch there for a year and a half of really coming out.
What happens when 2 huge institutions said, it's not okay with you being who you are?
Yeah.
What did that feel like?
Well, you kind of divide it into 2. So the college part, we've all known that sports is one of those places where there aren't gays in sports. Well, there's people like John Amici in the NBA that came out after he retired. That was awesome. That's people like Dwayne Wade that are supporting their transsexual son. That's awesome, and that's today. But you go back and there wasn't that when I was, coming up. So I didn't even know if there was any other gay people. So I just, I felt devastated, number one. He was born again Christian and he felt like what he was doing was right. I didn't understand that at the time either. So I just kind of, I had a great relationship with all the players. I was kind of one of the team captains. I had a great relationship. As soon as that came out, that changed. It went from being in the light to being completely in the darkness. I was shunned by everybody. Anybody that was my friend was no longer my friend. Wow. I had a really hard time finishing out the semester, but I did. And then after that, I actually didn't finish college. I actually went back home, got a job, and then dealt with the family issues that I mentioned. Being part of the Mormon church and coming out, that was tough. I knew I was gay at 16 years old, 15 years old. I knew it, and I hid it my entire life. I didn't mention it to anybody. Maybe a couple people knew. So that was hard. It was very stressful growing up, being in high school, playing sports, being in show choir, doing all those things that I really love to do, but not being able to be my true self. So I really took this as an opportunity, going back to college, that, wow, this is my opportunity to come out. Everybody's going to hear about it. So I went ahead and did it. And I just told my parents right up front, told my siblings, and it was tough.
That's such an important part of your life, that story right there. It's just like all this is taken away from you, and I relate to that too. And I've seen the way you operate your events and parties, and they have so much dignity, and you're so giving and you're so loving, and it's all done with this like heavy masculine holding space. And I just see you as this great guy you want not only at your event, but like participating in it and leading it. And to hear that man was like told by these 2 different institutions, you've got to go, is just, it breaks my heart just knowing that kind of rejection happened. And so, thank you for sharing that. And the reason I stopped you at that point was you had to make a decision, and people's lives really take different trajectories on what happens at that point. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to hear the way that you decided to just go full on.
Yeah, I thought I was a failure is really what I thought at the moment.
Wow.
I was not this strong person that said, you know what, I'm gay, screw you, I'm going forward. I look at it back today that said, man, I wish I would have done that. No. I put my tail between my legs. I hit in the ball. I went home and I cried. I did. It was tough. And then after that, to go into a long-term relationship pretty much right away, and being excommunicated from my dad and my partner of 7 years, not even, my parents didn't even want to meet him. It was a lot, and it was very, very tough. But it's funny, people say it gets better, but it really, really does. We learn from our past, and it allows us to become who we are in the future. And, I feel like I was shunned. I feel like I was kind of thrown away, and I don't want other people to feel that way. And that's why I run the group and my life, I guess, the way I do.
And that shows. That's the reason I wanted to bring that out. It's just like, why do people make these decisions? And that story that you just told, I think, is really helpful in getting there. So you went from not being out to like being out, and then like starting a magazine, putting gay on everything. So
I went through my little phase right around Y2K, where I was going out to the clubs, I was partying, I was having fun, coming home at 4:30 in the morning. We did that. And then I really learned what the gay community was in Arizona. And I got really involved. I was doing the pride parades, and I was involved in the community, raising funds and doing fundraisers. And for that, probably 15 years of my life, I really was dedicated in the community, worked in the community 100%. And that was wonderful. That was a great experience.
That's awesome. It's a great way to talk about that. So how did growing up LDS, affect the way you run your business?
Yeah, I think I could go back to my Mormon mission a little bit. That's something I did not want to do. But when you're raised LDS, when you turn 19, that's a 100% expectation. My family, 7 brothers and sisters, everybody had gone on their mission before me. It just made sense. I was hiding who I was. And so, hey, I could hide it a little bit longer. I went on my mission, and I was dreading it. I did not want to go. I went to Portland, Oregon, so I stayed stateside. So that felt good. And I can say after the mission, it was awesome. I loved it. I didn't really get into the proselytizing, knocking on doors and telling people about.
Could you give us a tiny bit about people who don't know what a Mormon mission is? What's the life of a missionary like?
So at 19 years old, you go on a 2-year Mormon mission for the LDS Church. For 2 years, you're expected to not connect physically with your family. You could call your mom on Mother's Day. You could call your family at Christmas. You go out day to day, door to door. You probably have seen the missionaries riding their bikes with their helmets. That was me. We knock on doors. We talk to people about the church and why they should join the church, and sometimes just have conversations. It's not always about trying to convert people right away. Sometimes it's building a relationship and trying to gain some trust from them. So I enjoyed that. I'm a people person. It was fun to go out and talk to people who wanted to talk to you. It was even more fun to have people slam the door in your face, because it kind of made it a game, and that happened a lot.
Wow. That's a great skill to learn about rejection. So many people build their whole lives around not experiencing that one single time. Do you have any idea how many times you experienced that kind of rejection on your mission?
I think that really did help me build my rejection proofness up. Kind of Mormons are known as great salesmen. And I think that's why they're rejected multiple times a day. And you might get that one family that's interested in talking to you once a week. So every day you're out knocking on 50 doors or more, and you have one family a week. So wow, those percentages are.
That's amazing. And so you said you learned things from that help you in your business. Like, what do you take from that?
Oh, I think just understanding that everybody's a little bit different, even if they're in your own community. I learned that there's, even in the Mormon church, they're not clones. I mean, everybody thinks that. There's a lot of things out there that say certain, people in religions are brainwashed, or they're all the same. They're really not. They're very, very different and complex. And it's really interesting learning about people's differences and complexities and who they are. And I think that in my business, gay people are all different. We come from all different backgrounds. We all have different needs. And even going on a simple thing as a camping trip, there's ways to just include people, be inclusive of others, and allow diversity within your group. We don't all come together and give each other hugs and sing Kumbaya next to the fire every time, but it kind of does have that feel. It's critical.
Well, speaking of tolerance, and we are usually asking people to tolerate our gayness or to accept it or to celebrate it. I'm asking for us to celebrate our own queerness, but tolerating other people is usually something we're asking other people to do. But I've noticed that you have the ability to tolerate or accept people that the majority of our gay community would not agree with, such as your roommate. You said you have a roommate who's a supporter of Trump. Tell us how that works with you.
Well, our roommate, who will not be named, although the people that know us know who he is, he's a good person and comes from a really good background. You know, you could see someone through to their heart when they're good. You know, you kind of just feel it, you know, that someone's good. People are raised different, you know, and sometimes you think, well, okay, I was raised LDS. I was raised in a Republican family. My dad is a kind of a crazy Trump supporter. Why don't all people convert over? And, you know, sometimes it could be for money. Sometimes we don't know what what's going on in someone's heart and soul. We don't know that. So I think that with all this rejection in my life, all these things have come up through my life is you just can't throw people away. Now, if somebody was to do something, they were really hardcore against my friends or continually pushing, yeah, you just have to, because it's not worth the stress. But our roommate, he keeps it kind of to himself. He will talk about it if you engage. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to say, let's not talk about politics in the house. We know who each other are and we can get along that way. And we've got along great. We've had our moments. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, sure. Of course. How did you guys become roommates?
Do you want the real story or the? No,
well, I want to. The real story is like, were you like, you know, moving stuff off the truck, and that's when you learned that he was?
No, actually, we met in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
His family has a very prominent business, and we met while we were in Arizona, and we just kind of hit it off. It's actually my husband and him hit it off really well. And when we decided we were going to move to California, we contacted him and said, we're moving to California. He lived here, obviously. And we connected as friends when we came here. Hadn't really had a political conversation at that point at all. And then we moved into our own apartment in downtown Los Angeles. And after a little while, he wanted to move out of his family's home. And we said, come and move in with us. That's right around the time that we learned of politics. And that was right in 2016. So it kind of all came together.
Wow. So what do you have in common? What keeps you from ending the roommate relationship?
It's nice to have a roommate that can pay the rent every month.
That's a real thing.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, we know he has a good heart, and we could talk about everything else. And we can go on trips together. We can go dancing together. We can go do all these things. Politics, I know it's a big piece of life, but it's not everything.
That's awesome. I just have a lot of respect for that. And I got to say, that's an interesting thing. I had to do a lot of therapy. I had to do some intense like men's work and other things and confront those political issues before I finally realized what I really want is a conversation with people on the other side, because I want them to respect me and I want to understand them enough to find some way I respect them. And it sounds like you were able to get there.
Well, kind of. We're not having that conversation that you want to have. We don't sit at the dinner table and talk about his side and our side and come to an agreement. We don't do that. It's more like, it's literally what you see on Facebook, except for we say, okay, let's not talk about it anymore. You know, so we don't have. It's not an passive aggressive or a walking on eggshell situation either. We've just agreed to disagree.
Okay. Yeah, I'm really big on that, because what that does is it opens up access to all the places where you do agree.
Right.
You know, and you wouldn't have that if that one thing was too much to get by. Let's move on to another question. What do you think the similarities or differences are between gay people who are, I'll just call them outdoorsmen, and to cover all your things? You do way more than camping, way more than off-roading. It's just, what are the similarities and what are the differences between the gay and the straight experience?
Wow. There's a lot. It's interesting because I've done everything from, going whitewater rafting to going to sand rails in the sand dunes and and going fishing down in Mexico with my dad. My dad had a TV show growing up for 15 years. It was an outdoors TV show. So I was in that world of being with, the straight guys there. That was a Mormon setting where they're not drinking beer every night. And then I have been at the sand dunes with the guys that are all drinking beer and partying, and they've got their wives there. It's interesting. The hyper masculine sense of the straight world is kind of like, I've got to be big and bad. And, it's kind of like the guy that walks by you and brushes their shoulder next to you like, hey, I'm bigger than you. It's a super masculine thing. They have that camaraderie and they like each other. So they're not going to fight, but it's this interesting, I don't know how more to explain it. This masculine feel of, are you going to shoot the bigger deer or am I going to shoot the bigger deer? Hey, what motor do you have in that? We still do that as gay men too, with like vehicles and things. But it seems like we're just on a wavelength together. And honestly, maybe it's just because I never had that connection with other straight guys that I didn't get how these buddies, bros are enjoying this, because I always
I love that. Yeah. It's like, this is fun. I always
was put off by it. I was always put off by this almost, it's not keeping up with the Joneses, but this competitive spirit.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's a really old quote from I don't remember the guy right now, but he said, when two men pass each other on the street, one of them loses. When two men make contact and see, there's a sizing up. We're
Seriously.
always sizing up and saying, I'm the better man.
Yeah, and I don't feel that in the gay community. I know that we do, as a stereotype, people say, oh, you're good looking, you're not good looking. Oh, this or that or this or that. When we go in the outdoors and we're doing this, I really, really don't feel that. I say that we're all here for the same reason. Some people are into certain people. There might be some romanticism going on and things like that, but that's not the point. The point is just to be together, to get along in common, like-minded interests, if you will. Okay. And it does feel different. It doesn't have that I'm comparing myself to you feel to it. That's what I like about it.
So that's not there as much. So what do the gays bring that you don't see at the straight camping experience? We'll just pick one.
I think just they want to belong as a group. They want to belong to, we're raised as individuals. A lot of times when we grow up as gays, we kind of have to move ourselves apart from like our straight friends because we know we're different. And so we don't feel like we're ever part of a group, like actually truly in a group. And so the reason why I like the idea of the California Gay Adventures group or any group of its sort is that you actually have a sense of belonging, and people truly want that because we're just such individual creatures as gay men. We kind of have our own little world. We might go see our friends and say hi once in a while, but it's nice to have a little bit more. And what gays bring to it is they bring, I think, that yearning and that desire, and they invest themselves just a little bit further into the experience.
Well, that's what I've noticed. I think our collective experience of being the other does force us to look at the world in a more cooperative manner, where we're looking for ways, like you said, to connect as opposed to ways to dominate. More so, we're still men and we still have all those issues.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
A bunch of, and you have the A-type personalities, and you have the people that more would rather follow. And we have those too. Sometimes, a group setting is not always for everyone. Sometimes you've become such an individual and you want to be so independent that it's just, you go to a group thing and you're like, I'm not into this. And you just do your own thing. That's okay too. That's okay.
Well, yeah, so I want to talk about the rules for CGA events. They're very clearly stated. You've got rules on sex, politics, noise, nudity. It's funny, I have a copy of the Boy Scout handbook and I just read through it, and none of your rules were in there.
I remember a scout is brave, clean, reverent, obedient, thrifty, something like that.
Yeah, thrifty, brave, yeah. So the thing is, part of my story is in 2007, I was International Mr. Leather. And, I would go to events like a thing called Gear Up, where the only rule is you can't have a naked butt in the eating lodge. But nudity, sex everywhere, everything, it's part of the event. It's why guys go, and it may be like the alt-right's, nightmare of how gay people are just this scary thing. But the CGA events are definitely not that. That's much more moderate rules. Like your sex rules are basically just do it where people can't see you. And I know you get pushback on that, amongst other things. And I know outside of the gay community, people would be like, how is that an oppressive rule?
And we don't mean to be oppressive at all. There was a decision to be made. In the 4-wheel drive group, it was no big deal. We actually mostly would go on like day trips and then come home, and we would maybe do a camp out once in a while. So camping wasn't really that big of a thing. And when we first went on a couple of our first camping trips where there was no rules, it was fine. Everybody just we went up to Yosemite. We had a group of 8 guys. There was no issues. Then I noticed that when we had about 12 guys, there was no issues. When we had 20 guys, there started to become some issues around the campfire at night. You can imagine, things like that. And I kind of had to go into myself and think.
I have to push. We just have to make it clear. That was so Mormon of you. Issues happen. Were people having sex at the campfire?
Yeah, like a blowjob at the campfire.
Yeah,
while there's other people sitting around, and not everybody wants to see that. Some people truly believe, like, hey, I'm hot. You want to watch me? And it's like, no, I don't. You're not hot. You're not hot to me. Everybody has their different likes and dislikes.
And maybe I'm just not in the mood for sex right now. Yeah, and you're forcing me to participate in your sex scene.
Or, hey, we're at a campsite. There's a couple in a motorhome right there. That's not part of our group.
Yeah.
And you're going to do this here. This is illegal. And number 2, it's just not appropriate. There's a time and place for things.
Well, and from the leather fetish rules of conduct, that's non-consensual. And it's not okay. Right. The kinky people would say that's not okay if everybody's not consenting to it. So,
absolutely. Some of our groups, like for example, believes in sexual aggression. That one's obvious.
I think some people don't. I love that rule because I don't think that some people would consider what they're doing aggressive. They just think they're having fun. They're just playing a game. And again, that gets to consent. I don't think.
Yeah, and I have an example. We had a camp out near a lake, and we had a situation where we had to kick 2 people out of the group, and they're not allowed back in. We banned them from the group. And it was because the entire day, they were, number 1, hitting on people, number 2, touching people inappropriate, and number 3, when people did have some to drink that night, climbing inside their tent in the middle of the night. That's not right. And so, that is not what we want to see in our group. And we're as soon as anything like that happens, it's just, they're out. And so, I believe everybody in the group has been very good about it. We have had a couple situations.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself. I like rules. I like knowing what I'm going to. I like that other event. I like the event where, people's tents are open and we can watch them have sex, or they're doing crazy, fetish stuff like in the main park. And I love your events because I know what to expect at both of them. It's just a completely different thing. And what the thing that I got a chance to do camping with the California Gay Adventures guys is get to know people on a different level. I think on the heart and head level. And I believe that our crotch may actually get us there. But it is good to have some modulated sexual stuff so that we might find other ways to connect.
And I believe in that. I'm actually part of a nudist group, and we go do some of these similar things with different rules, but it's not part of California Gay Adventures. And so, I as well believe that whatever you're getting yourself into, it needs to be very clear. Boundaries need to be set. And so we made a decision to set these boundaries on a broad scope. Whether it's nudity or public sex and drinking. Drinking, we just say, moderate your drinking. And so, that one's kind of obvious, but for some people it's not. Like with nudity, we will, for example, we went on a day trip to Deep Creek, and people were hiking naked. We were naked in the hot spring. But in the event invite, it was very clear on what we were doing. Or if we go to an area where nudity is allowed, we'll say it in the description that say, this area has nudity. We go to an area outside of Palm Springs. We go camping there, and people could be naked, and it's fine. But the sex piece still applies. Just because someone's being a nudist doesn't mean that they can have sexual aggression towards them, people just grabbing them, or just have sex next to the fire or something.
I want to go on record as saying that being sexually liberated doesn't mean that my sexual liberation doesn't mean that I get to just sexually assault you. I think that's not for you. That's for anybody
Right.
listening that may be confused about that. And that's the reason I, have this, I like this credential of like, I'm a big time believer in connecting through sex and fetish and all of that stuff. But we have to, my values, I just don't get to, I don't get to place my values on you or my scene on you, as we call it, or my sexual preferences on you, unless we have a discussion and you say, yes, I want that to happen. So,
and that's exactly how I feel towards this. I mean, it's funny because people that just know me through the group, they come on maybe a couple camping trips, are like, man, he's a prude. And I'm not. If people knew who I was, once they do get to know me in my different areas of life, I'm pretty open, and I'm a very open and accepting and loving person. And as long as there's just some boundaries.
Yeah. And that's what you're doing with your group. I think that a lot of people in the LGBT services area get stuck on, everything needs to be allowed all the time. Otherwise, outside of sex and all that, otherwise you're somehow oppressive. And I would say, no, this actually gives me freedom to like show up at your event and know that I can sit there and I can talk to these guys, and it's not going to get intensely sexual as if I'm at Gear Up or if I'm at a play party event. Here.
Yeah, or if you've maybe had one too many to drink and you do go back to your tent and you are going to just go to sleep, that you don't have to worry about somebody that's going to, hey, I was hitting on you all night, I'm going to come into your tent with you. We really do not want that to happen. And if
no, that's assault.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's assault. So who's the ideal crew member on your adventures?
We've had so many people come from so many backgrounds. Right now we have like a couple members that have just moved to the United States from different countries that are like, I have never seen anything in my life like this. And they're just, they jumped in with both feet and they go to every single event because this is something that they've never experienced. And, one was in a country that's complete oppression, and you can't not even be gay in the country. And he's just, loving it. And then there's other people that are LA natives, they're Angelinos, and they've lived a life of, we talk about that people live a life of, that they've been around this their whole life, and it's no big deal being gay. That's ideal too, because they have a local perspective. And then there's somebody like me that's been outdoors my entire life and knows that we shouldn't go hiking when there's ice on the ground in a certain area because we might slide off and die.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that too.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell you that there's an ideal person. I think it is for everyone. I do have a story. There was one person that was going to come on one of our campouts, and he's like, so tell me how this works. You provide a tent and set it up for me? At first I was confused and like, we don't need people like this, to come. And then I thought about it. Just took me a couple seconds. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is someone that's literally never been in a tent or camping in their entire life. And because they looked through our page and saw how much fun we have together, they want to be part of us. And, he's now been on 3 or 4 adventures. He has his own tent. He has his own little stove that he brings.
Oh, wow.
And it was just so cool. So I can't tell you we have a perfect person.
Well, it sounds like all these people have, a sense of adventure and curiosity and openness, even if their backgrounds are all different. So that's awesome. And I do love that. What's going on now with the organization, and where do you want to be in the future?
Well, if we talk about COVID, it's been unfortunate that we've had to cancel everything.
Yeah,
June.
yeah.
But we've done that for a good reason, obviously, and we don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the year. We do have a couple events scheduled right now as a kind of watch and go, and we're going to go to Pismo Beach, and then we also have a trip planned in September for early September up to Yellowstone, the Grand Teton. So we do one event a month. That's typically an overnight. We might do an event like, whether it's going to the beach or having a beach bonfire or going off-roading or even go skydiving within a month. And then we'll have one big adventure every year. Last year, we went to Costa Rica. We had 24 guys. We went to Costa Rica for over a week for 10 days, and it was amazing. It was so much fun because it was so different from being a part of like a regular, even a gay group tour that you sign on for and you don't know anybody. It's really interesting going with 20 guys. Of course, I knew them all, but some of them knew 4, some of them knew 3, some of them didn't know anybody. But because we had kind of this bonding and togetherness that some people have with each other, that we were this group together instead of being individuals, and which was really, really cool for a long trip like that. And we hope for that to happen again in Yellowstone in September.
Well, that togetherness is one of the things I really enjoyed on your trip up to Zion that Dennis and I did with you. And tell us about how you handle the food. I think that's really indicative of how it's community building as well as good logistics.
Yeah, well, it didn't start that way. Everything is an evolution. You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I said, okay, I want this to be as easy as possible for people that are coming. So, of course, I bought this huge, massive excursion and, brought a trailer and had all the ice chests, went and bought all the food. And by the time I got to the campsite, I was exhausted.
Yeah.
We set everything up, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to go by the fire and go to bed early. I still kind of go to bed early. But now what we do, and it's a lot better actually, is that we put together on a Google Sheet, and we just say, okay, these are the meals. These are all the items of the meals. And then I just let everybody know that's going. Go in and select whatever it is, 1, 2, 3 items based on how many people are going to be there. And we're relying on you to bring this item so that we can have this meal. It was I was worried about it. Are people going to actually bring it? Are we going to have hamburgers with no meat? What's going to work out? And it's worked out great. I just send a little reminder, but everybody brings a little bit of stuff. We still have the community ice chest and things like that. And we have a community kitchen that I bring. Now we kind of have it set. We bring the community kitchen. Everybody kind of knows to help get it out of the trailers, help set it all up. And then the people that bring those meals, those food items, actually help cook. And then we have people that help clean. We're not quite like the Boy Scouts, when we were in the Boy Scouts where everybody had a specific job. Yeah. But people kind of just we bring people together and they help. A lot of the new people, they end up over by the fire, kicking back with the beer. And then they're like, why are all these people doing this? And so, we let them do that for a 1 trip or 2 trips. And then after a while, they've got to help.
That's awesome. And you have whatever they bring, they're responsible for cooking or whatever the thing is, putting out.
Yeah, and all of us know that there are some people that cook better than others. So sometimes it is okay to let those people that are skilled, that enjoy it. Because some people actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
And they tend to cook a little bit more. But you can also tell when they're a little tired of it as well. And I think that we have a great balance there. Sometimes the person that doesn't know how to cook or does not like cooking, they might cut up a few tomatoes, and that's it for the whole trip. And that's okay. As long as everybody just puts a little bit in.
Yeah. And you do have you have an elegance of handling adult men who sometimes might not even be, whose social graces might be a little rusty.
That happens.
The GerleMen podcast is about, this hero's journey from oppression to celebration. And I believe that all queer people have one. We start in this known place, we go away, we have these adventures, we have these ordeals. We've talked about some of yours with basketball and with the church. And then we come back, and in the classic telling, we come back as in Star Wars, it was a Jedi Master, or we come back with the elixir, or we come back with some sort of way of being. Do you believe that you've been on a hero's journey? And I think we have many of them. And if you have, tell us a little bit about that and what you learned.
I think it's it's an interesting concept, and it's very difficult for somebody to say, yes, I'm a hero, but I guess if you really kind of think about it, let me have another way of taking it.
I could ask you to tell you your victim story. Tell me how you were fucked over. And I think we're really good at supporting each other as victims and how we got fucked over. And I want to support us as heroes, having been through a fucked up situation, and we came out better men.
Well, that word really helped. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I really do believe that I'm a better person because of the tribulations I've been through in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And going outside of just what I've experienced and what I've overcome and who I am today, it's how you treat other people and what you're doing for others. I feel like I actually have a mission to work with other people and to help other people. Being in lockdown right now has me kind of like, I want social engagement, and not just to go to a party or do something with other people. I like to help other people come out of their space that they're in and just become more. And that's that person that's a little bit socially awkward. We've had those people that have come in to our group, and that maybe some people are like, oh, I don't know if this person should be a member. Oh, I don't know if this person should be here. And say, no, this is exactly the people that need to be here. We need to be the people that love them and accept them and enjoy them. And we've done that. I believe that we have done that for some people. Some people watching this may say, well, I didn't feel that way. Not everything is known. We can't always, we don't have intuition there, but we can just be the best we can be. My hero's journey is just that we treat people better in this world, and we just give people a sense of worth on whatever they're doing, even if it's a camping trip.
That is amazing. And hearing the idea that you want to love people into being more is what you said. That's really wonderful. And how different is that from that other attitude you were talking about? It's like, how do I one up you?
I rolled my eyes. It's just so, and you do see that sometimes.
Sure.
People say, when we were moving to LA, we had this whole thing that people were saying, don't move to LA. WeHo is the worst. Everybody judges your clothes and your shoes. And we experience completely the opposite. Maybe it's just the people you're around. I mean, there is that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. There is that.
Well, people confuse. Sometimes people talk about, I said, if you're talking about West Hollywood bar scene, then yes. But the same thing's happening on the bar scene on Sunset Boulevard.
Absolutely.
You're talking about bar culture, not necessarily gay culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think most of us do want to love each other. The bar scene is harsh and cutthroat and superficial.
And we have I almost say that we have, my husband and I, we're in different scenes. We go to circuit parties. We love them.
Yeah.
We have our groups of friends that we do. And yes, they are very cliquey. I try to go out and see other people while we're there. It's tough. It is difficult, but we still do enjoy doing those things as well.
Well, I just did what may be the very, very last gay cruise ever, but I'm sorry, Rich Campbell, that must really suck.
I know, I was saying the same thing just now.
I know. I could see all that. But what I did see is these tribes that, these things are so huge that many, many tribes can go onto one boat and create one giant tribe. And that happens as well as the superficial stuff and the other stuff. And it really is where we focus our attention. It's like they said, which wolf will live, the dark one or the light one. And it's like, it depends on which one you feed. It's an old story. And if you feed the one that gives you negativity all the time, it's going to get bigger and stronger. And if you feed the one that's positive all the time, you'll get bigger and stronger. And I tend to feed and gravitate towards those people who I see creating community in that scene. Yeah, and now that I'm 55 and I'm officially an elder, it's my job to bless. It's like I'm blessing this, I'm blessing that, and I'm just not giving any attention to that over there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Let them do their thing. So let me ask you the 3 GerleMen questions. It's like, how do you invest in your own dignity? I mean, what do you do regularly, or what have you done in your life's journey that has brought you to where you are now? You're a leader, you create community, you mentor men. What do you do to stoke that mindset?
Doing it regularly. It's practice makes perfect for anything. It's something that I don't think about, obviously. I just do it. And that's why people are like, why do you do so many of these things? Why do you do these adventures so often? You just do 2 or 3 a year and focus on making money and going traveling. I truly enjoy it. I truly enjoy trying to help other people and having fun with other people, meeting new people. How do I stoke my fire? I mean, what do I do? What does every gay man do? Go to the gym in the morning? And
Yeah.
I really want to get more into like what you're into with meditation and things. I think that could really help me. There's some areas that I feel like I'm lacking as well.
Well, I think those events may be more regular for you too, if I could just, make up that they are practices in the sense that like sitting down and doing meditation or doing a yoga class is a practice. I mean, hiking is a practice. Setting up camp, setting up my tent is a practice, all of those things are ritual. And now that you say that and doing it often, it's just, I see you participating in a lot of ritual on a regular basis.
Yeah. Okay. I participate in rituals. That's my answer.
And I love that you're just following your heart. Your intuition is what it sounds like. And that intuition is coming from a community building space, loving people space. And that's amazing. Who do you consider your closest people, your chosen family, the people who will visit you in the hospital and bury you in your, or whatever death ritual you have? And how do you keep those relationships fresh?
Obviously, my husband. We've been together now for over 10 years and married for a little over 5. When we were in Arizona, we moved into the same compound, if you will, complex of a house. It was interesting because there was this older gay man that lived in the home and rented a room to a good friend of ours. And my brother moved into the guest house. So he's always had a lot of gays come in and out of that house. And that house was known, good and bad. But we developed this family. I mean, we actually literally call him our gay dad. And our friend that lives here in LA, that he was going back and forth between the homes, our gay grandpa. He just turned, I believe he's 90 years old now.
Wow.
He's over 90. And then my brother was in the guest house. We moved into that house and we just developed this kind of family, if you will. And we've had a few other individuals that have entered our lives that we truly believe that are part of that family as well. Yesterday, we did a COVID drive-by, which is, we had to see them, but you can't get close. So we literally drove, parked on the curb. They're right next to their door. They're older. We don't want to be too close to them. Mm-hmm. So we just talked from about 20 feet away just for a little while because, they're a family.
Yeah.
So, and then, you bring in, certain friends throughout your life. It's very few in my experience that come within that, to use the meet the Fockers thing, that circle of trust. There's that small circle that's true. And even if you have this huge network of thousands of people or even hundreds of people that you see on a regular basis, you're still going to have 4 or 5 people, maybe even less, that are your true small circle.
Yeah. In my experience, that's very, very true. And that's the reason I'm asking this question, to honor those special relationships, because they are few, the ones that last, and those people that you can trust in those critical points in your life. So that's fascinating. I didn't know that story. I was going to ask who your mentors are. Would you consider those 2 men mentors, your gay dad and your gay grandfather?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Our gay dad, he it was tough because he went through prostate cancer not too long ago. We thought, we could lose him. And it almost felt like, a family member.
Yeah.
And he came right out of it and he did great. And so he's
awesome.
He's awesome now. But, we have the financial talks just like you would your dad, like I could
That's
imagine.
Great. Yeah.
Because he's done well for himself, but, in the past when he was my age, he screwed up too. We have those talks. We have the disapproving father talks sometimes. So I think it's good to be able to have those with your friends and with your chosen family, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. Is there anything else that you want people to know about you or CGA?
The other thing I would talk about CGA is probably the kind of misconception. I think I kind of handled it with the guy with the tent that didn't have a tent. But a lot of people, they're afraid to come on their first adventure. We have 3,800 people in the Facebook group. We now have our website, CaliforniaGayAdventures.com, that has its own app, and people are starting to go there. But you find a lot of people looking, a lot of people just watching. But and we do have a lot of people that join. But we just want to be able to extend the invite. You don't have to be a great outdoorsman. You don't have to be someone that has a tent. You don't have to be someone that even knows how to start a campfire. We do all of that. You don't have to even bring any of the food or anything the first trip. Just come, experience it, and see if it's for you. We're open for everybody. I finally decided that I need some help. And so we created what's called our small council, Game of Thrones. And we said, let's get a group that's kind of like our board of directors, but it's our small council. And they are helping, and they're helping with the adventures each month. Everybody has a different responsibility. As this whole, pandemic that came up kind of squashed that for a little while. But, we're going to get back together again. We'll plan out the year. We'll have everybody have different responsibilities. We'll choose a couple nonprofit organizations to support and like throw pool parties and things like that for. We did think that how could we create a way that you could have like a different level that you can earn, and somehow you earn these levels. We haven't quite figured that out yet. In order to pay for things that we do, we do charge for our adventures. A camping trip might be somewhere around $35 to $45. A bigger adventure like Costa Rica or something is going to be appropriate to, whatever the international or domestic adventure would be. It's not overtly priced. If you look at competing, commercial endeavors that do it where you don't even know anyone. So I think it's moderately priced. We're trying to figure out a way to, like, there's other organizations that have like monthly membership dues or annually membership dues. We don't have any of that. Yeah. So we've kind of been looking at all the different ways that we could, whether it's motivating people to do things or it's some way to be able to kind of just give us a budget to be able to work with to even offer more things for people.
Yeah. Well, I just think that's a great way to make it accessible. You've got your other ways. It's like you don't have to start on the Black Diamond trail. We've got an entry level that we've been waiting for you. So but I just heard you just say
definitely an evolution that we'd like to do, and I think that maybe now is a good time to actually start discussing it since we don't have a whole lot going on.
Yeah, I would love to have some of those discussions with you. So thank you, Chris, for doing this. I really think that as an elder, I got to say that whether you know it or not, you are a contemporary leader in our community, and you are providing really high valuable ways for men to connect through heart-centered connection. That's also very fun stuff that guys like to do, and I know everybody's invited. And it's just really true to what we're doing here at GerleMen, which is, honor yourself exactly who you are, and trust that you deserve to feel love and love other people. And you provide a way for people to do that. And I just want to thank you for that and honor you for providing that space.
Well, thank you.
And that, my friends, was Chris Kuwahara-Smith, a man creating community that helps men find a sense of belonging, knowing that everybody's different and everybody's welcome, as long as they're willing to follow a few rules, some boundaries that keep everybody having a good time, getting the experience that they want. I want to thank Chris and the California Gay Adventure team for being on the show and providing awesome events for us to connect in. Thanks for listening to the show, my friend. Now stay connected by subscribing to GerleMen Podcast and sharing with your friends on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or anywhere else podcasts can be found. Visit the webpage at GerleMen.com, sign up for the newsletter, and find more details about each episode. Let's make this a conversation, because I'd really like to hear from you. Join us on Facebook at GerleMen. Submit your questions, suggest topics, or just chat with your brothers. Want to add your own 2 cents? Use the voice memo feature on your smartphone. Ask a question or say anything. We just might play it on the podcast. Email the file to mike@gerlemen.com. Until next time.